I'm a trans man, and this is the first time I'm telling my full story.
Hi, my name's Abe, and this is my voice 4 days on T.
And this is my voice 4 months on testosterone.
This is my voice 5.5 months on T. This is my voice 6 months on T. This is my voice just over 6 months on testosterone. This is my voice 6 months and 3 weeks on testosterone. And this is my voice 7 months on T. And this is my voice 7.5 months on T. This is my voice 8 months on T. This is my voice 8.5 months on T. This is my voice 9 months on T. This is my voice 11 months on T. And this is my voice 11.5 months on T. This is my voice 17 months on T. This is my voice 1.5 years on T. This is my voice 23 months on T. This is my voice 2 years on T. And this is my voice 2.5 years on T.
Hi, my name's Abe, and I am 5 years on T. Hi, my name's Abe, and I guess we should start at the beginning. So, childhood for me was pretty chaotic. I have a lot of childhood trauma, just like a lot of the population, unfortunately. I went through childhood not feeling too different from everyone else, but definitely I went through life thinking or knowing I should have been a boy. Why aren't I a boy? I should have been a boy. And all my friends were boys. I had crushes on all the girls. That was my childhood. Kicking footy with the boys, chasing the girls, not really knowing what was going on. Very innocent, I was very young. I remember these being my thoughts under 5, but definitely around that 5-year mark. I can remember those thoughts being quite, in the forefront of my mind. So we'll fast forward through life and we'll go into the teens when it started to become a bit more obvious for me. I remember, back then there was no representation of trans people like there are today, especially trans men. There weren't any celebrities that were trans at that point, obviously, anyway. And social media wasn't a thing then, so there wasn't much education or knowledge of what that looked like or what that even was for me. I remember always having these really strong connections with females, and I knew it was stronger than a friendship, but it was really confusing for me. And so fast forward into my later teens, and I was just into girls, definitely. And I remember at about 16 having this conversation with my mum and then eventually getting a girlfriend. And I'm a girl, and the only label for that is a lesbian. And I remember going through this process and having these thoughts of, that doesn't really align with me properly. The word lesbian just feels not comfortable, and it wasn't like an internalized homophobia. It was just, that wasn't my label. That didn't make sense to me. And at this point, I remember I had watched the L Word, right? And there was Max, which is the first trans man I had encountered on any TV or I'd never met a trans man that I knew of in person. And I remember thinking, that's it, that's me. Now, although I had that realization at that age, I didn't do anything about it. I threw it in the back of my mind and I kept going because, well, it's pretty full on. It's a really tough experience, and it just wasn't my time to shine at that point. So as I went on, continued through my later teens into my 20s, I had a few very serious relationships with females, and at about 28, I found my now fiance, Jess. Now, Jess and I were in a relationship for about a year, and I was at work and I was managing a cafe at this point, and there was a co-worker there, and for some reason, gender had become the topic of conversation. And as we were talking through this, I started to realize, hang on, I'm either trans or non-binary. So we're having this conversation, and that night I go home and I sit Jess down and I have the conversation with her. And I said to her, I was like, Jess, I think I'm trans or non-binary. And I remember her just lovingly sitting there saying, okay, well, what do you want to do? Let's do this. So, you know, I'm so fortunate to have such a supportive and loving partner, and my whole family really, like, just the most loving and supportive, non-judgmental family you can have, and I'm so freaking grateful. Through this process, like really early on, probably after that conversation I had with Jess, that first conversation, I called my mum, and she just so happened to have been traveling around Australia at that point with my stepdad, and I just dropped a bombshell on her, the poor thing. I remember saying, hey mum, I got something to tell you. I think I'm trans and I'm going to go and see a gender therapist. Now, this poor woman, she's traveling around Australia, and mic drop, yep, go deal with that, mum, while you're on holiday. And then, I mean, for me, it was like, I guess it was a way of being in control, like, go and process that, and then come back to me when you have. Then the journey starts. So I started to see a gender therapist, and I guess the process for that was, number one, you socially transition. Number two, after you've socially transitioned, we then start hormones, and then we go on to, you know, if you want surgeries, we go down that road. So I was seeing the gender therapist, and I was doing that for, I think it was about a year and a half, and through that process I socially transitioned, which was horrific. It was really friggin' horrific. I was front of house working and managing a cafe, and, you know, people aren't educated, people don't know what they don't know, and so no one was on board with, you know, my pronouns, my name change, and it was just the most mentally challenging experience I've had. And for me, I can be quite impatient, and, you know, I'm a fast mover. Get on board. If you're not on board straight away, I just freaking can't cope. So, you know, not once, I'll tell you this though, not once did Jess use the wrong pronouns or, you know, call me my old name. She was just this rock solid human that just never faltered, and it was everything a person could need going through that. Next came the moment that I was about to start testosterone. So I booked in to see an endocrinologist and had to wait a decent amount of time even to do that. The beginning of my transition was really difficult. I had a really hard time with hormones. It's really a game of trial and error with hormones. There's lots of different types of testosterone you can take. There's gel, there's different injections, and it just wasn't working for me. I went onto a testosterone that was made by a compound chemist, and that wasn't made correctly and was not working for my body. So the first 6 months of being on hormones, I saw little to no change. And you can imagine when you've made this decision to change your life and change your identity to become the real version of yourself, and it's not running smoothly because life doesn't. You can't really control it, as I'm learning. It's just frustrating, and it's a little bit soul destroying, because here you are, this fragile person trying to become the version of yourself that you know you're supposed to be, and it's just not happening. Like, there was no voice change, there was no body hair, there was none of the really exciting things that someone wants to experience going through this. It was just not happening for me. So mentally I was really unwell. I stopped working, so I was literally just sitting in a ball, a shell of a human, going through this thing that wasn't really happening for me. So it took a good couple of years to get those hormones right, and then it all kicked off. You know, I remember just taking photos of the new leg hairs on my legs and my underarms and my little mo that was growing, and it's just all those small things that were just so exciting for me. It was so exciting, but unfortunately going through all of this stuff and having all these exciting things happen, I was actually experiencing really bad hormone levels, as in the gel I was now on had built up in my system, and my testosterone levels were like up here, which means it converts to estrogen. And that's really the opposite effect. You don't want to be going through that. So I remember actually feeling mental. My levels were so extremely high that I felt like I was losing my mind. I was extremely unwell. Like Britney Spears kind of meltdown. Respect to you, Britney. No disrespect. It was like, I don't even know how to explain it, but I was so emotionally and mentally messed up for such a while there. And I had started working in the mines at this point, and it was just like, it was a real time. And there's no handbook on this, so no one can walk you through it. No one knows how you're going, like how you're feeling or what you're going through, unless they're going through the exact same thing. One trans person's going through this experience, and then another trans person is going through a completely different experience. So it's so isolating, and it doesn't matter how much support or who you've got around you. When things are going that way, it's really, really hard. Really hard. Just before I started hormones, there was a really difficult time in life where I truly hated myself. I hated my body. I was showering with the lights off. It was just the feeling of disgust towards that version of myself, and it's done some damage. You know, I wish I could go back and relive that, and I wish I could show that version of me some love and compassion, and just tell them that it's going to be okay and we're going to get through it. But that's not what happened. I was horrible to myself. I was really horrible to myself. I would beat myself up in the mirror. It was just horrible thoughts of just hate towards self. And now all I can do is process that as this version of myself, and somehow go back to that old part and do some healing, to show some compassion and love, and just love that version of myself. It wasn't her fault. She was beautiful, you know? Now I see that, but I certainly didn't then. I want to touch on my experience with support network. Now, I know how absolutely privileged I am to have the people I have around me. I've had the most supportive partner. We are still together, and we've been together for nearly 8 years now, which is quite rare, considering we were together pre-transition to after transition. I also have an extremely loving and supportive family, and I have extremely loving and supportive friends around me. So I am so lucky, and I am so grateful and so aware of how much privilege I have with that. And I can't even imagine what other trans people go through, where they are disowned, they are rejected, they are abused, they are murdered. You know, I know how lucky I am, and I am so grateful to the universe all the time that I have those people around me. Now, the hardest part about my journey is not what you'd think. The hardest part about my journey is the fact that a year into my transition, decided that I was going to go and work in mining. And I started to do that really early in my transition. So I was extremely vulnerable, extremely sensitive. I am learning how to navigate the world as a man, as a trans man. I'm trying to navigate it in a place that tries to be inclusive, but aren't, that have a certain type of people in the environment that don't know how to deal with different types of people. I'm trying to find what masculine feels like or is to me. I don't have a strong foundation of a father figure in my life. So I've gone into an environment where it's just pure toxic masculinity. So how does a person find what it means to be a man, or how you should be a man when you're surrounded by toxicity? It's been really challenging. It's been really challenging to rebuild or build myself based on what? Like, who do I have around me? So it's just been, and it still is, I'm still learning what it means to be a man and be a really healthy, balanced man. So being a healthy, balanced man means both embracing the feminine and the masculine, because we're made up of all of it. And what does it mean to be a man? Does it mean drive, get? You know, is it muscles? Is it, you know, just this, what is it to be a man? Is it to be strong and hold your family and provide for your family? Is that what's important? Or is it to be a solid foundation, you know, that embraces the feminine and the masculine? And that's the journey that I'm on still, and I think I will be for a while. I mean, your body, you know, changes so much before your mind can catch up. It really does. Second thing on the hard list was emotions. Now, I remember reading things from trans guys, and they were like saying how they couldn't cry, or they felt kind of numb and closed off. And I remember thinking, oh heck, I hope that doesn't happen to me, because I was a really in touch human. I was very emotionally in touch. I was very emotionally available. I was soft. I was gentle. And I lost it to a large degree. And they were right. You can't cry. Testosterone does something where it affects your ability to cry. It changes how you feel emotions. So imagine going through life now not knowing, you know, what your emotions have changed so much. They feel different. You don't feel all the emotions anymore. They are very filtered. It's like a barrier. It's like there's a lot more anger and frustration rather than sadness and softness, if that makes sense. And that's been really difficult for me to navigate. It's been really difficult to show up for people in a way that they need, instead of trying to fix it in that masculine way, right? Because you don't know what you're feeling. You're feeling these things, but they're so filtered and they're so different. So it's like really been, and still is, a lesson in, right, stopping and trying to work out what these emotions are and how to actually process them. There is one more thing that's been extremely difficult, and it's been the way that females interact with me. Now, you can imagine going 29 years of your life being really close with women and never being a threat, and just being in that environment, right? And then you transition and you look like this, right? You look like this. And now you're a threat. And it freaking breaks my heart because as often I'll approach women, obviously not on the street, but in a social setting, and I can just see their walls up. And I get it. I totally get it. It's like this shield of, oh, are you a safe person? It's just been such a different experience from being a person that's embraced by women to now, potentially scaring women, I guess. Now, I'm not a threatening person at all, as you can see with the way I talk. I really am just like this, and I approach women even more gently. But along with that process, you start to soften yourself down, and you try to, I've tried to make women really comfortable because I get it and I don't want them to be scared or uncomfortable around me. And with that, I found that there is a line crossed. It's like this blurred boundary where women then think you're like their gay best friend rather than seeing you for who you are. Like when you divulge that you're trans and you do amp up the feminine aspects of yourself to try and make people comfortable, then somehow there's a line that's blurred and you're no longer seen for who you are. You're seen as a trans person or someone that was a female. So I've even had girls that I've worked with show me photos of dudes and expect me to be like, oh, he's cute, but I'm straight and I'm a guy and I'm really not interested in checking out your new fling, And I appreciate that they're a lot more comfortable with me, but heck, it's just you don't see me for who I am. That's really not who I am. Now, let's talk about all the good shit about the transition. For me, it's been my mo. Yes, I would love to grow a beard, and I think it's slowly happening. I've been on hormones now for 5 years. I've got a few friggin' wispy bits and a mo, and I've lost my hair. I've fully receded, so bit of a worm vibe happening. But yeah, hair. Really not a hairy person, but that's just been such an exciting thing. I've had top surgery. So top surgery has been just the most affirming, empowering, incredible experience of my life. I'll pop some photos up. It has truly just changed me to be able to sit with confidence, stand with confidence, walk with confidence, just top off, living my best life. It's just, it's been heaven. It's been really, really cool, really exciting, empowering, just affirming. I just feel so comfortable, so much more comfortable. It's also been super interesting to watch dynamics change in conversations, when talking to a guy and actually being listened to. That's interesting. Or having the attention put on me rather than my female partner. It's quite eye-opening to now be a white male with a shitload of privilege. That's just been something to process. Think about that for a bit. What advice would I give someone that is considering transitioning or questioning their gender? My advice would be to talk to a gender professional. Talk to people that are going through the experience. Don't rush it. You just don't need to rush it. Although we feel like we're so behind and we have to do this thing, we've made the decision, don't rush it because it happens really fast. You really want to make sure that, you've done the work, you've prepped yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, because it's a really big process. There's no handbook on how to do it. It's different for everyone. So emotionally, it's really difficult. Hormonally, it's really difficult. Socially, it's really fucking difficult. It's so different for everyone. So take your time, have the conversations, with people. There's so many resources out there. There's so much. There's so much provided to us now that we just have access to a lot of knowledge. And no one's experience is the same. Treat yourself with love and compassion. Love every version of yourself, because if you don't, you're going to have to deal with so much trauma at the end of it, and it's just not worth it. Your body is going to go through incredible changes. So is your mind, and so is your soul. Your relationships with people will change. So don't be hard on them. Show them compassion as well, unless they're outwardly being an asshole. But remember that people need to grieve the old version of you, and more importantly, you need to grieve that version of you. We need to go through a process of saying goodbye to the old. And I see so many trans people that start this journey and just get rid of all old photos and videos and anything that reminds them of that past self. And I get it. We don't want to be reminded of something that's been so uncomfortable and not authentic or real. But that's a person as well. And I would advise you to hold on to that person and love them and treat them right, because when you don't and you treat that person with hate and disgust, it will stay with you. It'll leave a mark on you that you'll need to heal, because you can't go through life with such open wounds. You just can't. You know what, everyone? I'm so freaking proud of myself. I never say this. I never actually give myself any credit, but I am a person that has conquered this experience. I have spent most of my life extremely uncomfortable, transitioned at 29. I started working in mining, and I did that for 5 years with just pure toxicity. I've had to build myself up with no strong foundation of masculine energy around me. And I have done the work, and I am still doing the work. I am so incredibly proud of myself, because I am a loving, empathetic, compassionate, gentle person that would do anything for anyone. I want to always be helping people. I want to always be guiding people to show up as their authentic, true self, because that's what this life is about. It's about being true to you and learning what love is. And learning what love is isn't just about loving other people. It's about learning to love yourself at every part of your journey. Learning to love all the messy, ugly, gross little bits that we don't like. Because if we don't, we're just judging ourselves, and then we're judging everyone else around us, and then we're actually not practicing love. And that's what life's about, right? So this is just a little snippet of my journey. I'm going to be posting many more videos about different areas of my transition, my different experiences, and I'm also going to be sharing about my ADHD, what that's been like, dealing with that, childhood trauma. There's an array of different experiences I've had through this life, and I can't wait to share them all with you. Keep up. Let's do it. Let's go through all of the different human experiences together. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it.